Welcome to Creators Anonymous. I'm James. This is my co-host Seth.
Hey, everybody.
And on today's show, we have the cast of Mythguided or the Ritual cast?
Mythguided.
Mythguided, okay.
We are the artists formerly known as the Ritual cast.
Mythguided is an actual play D&D podcast. So before we get started, how can the listeners find you? Starting with Grayson.
I am on Twitter as Cordeleone11, which is super fun to spell. That is COUE. I can't even remember it off the top of my head.
It's okay. We'll link it
R
in the show
after
notes.
that.
Yeah, it's French. I'm a Richard the Lionheart obsessive, so it's the French title of Richard the Lionheart.
Got you, Corey.
You can find me on Twitter at Grothwarlessar, is my Twitter handle, which is also the character that I play on Mythguided. So that one should be easy enough.
We'll link that one too.
Sounds good.
Forrest and Trish.
Mine's easier. Twitter is at Triss_joy, and that's 2 S's on Triss.
And I am at Fearless Leader, and that's spelled like my last name, LEDER. So, and I've got that on Twitter, and that's my YouTube channel where I do some like original songs and stuff as well.
So how can you find us? Good luck.
So how
See
can
the
they,
show notes.
so how can they find Mythguided if they're looking for it all together?
We've got at Mythguided Pod.
Okay.
So MYTH Guided.
And where can they find the podcast?
So that will be on all places podcasts are found shortly. We are currently on Spotify, and we have our RSS feed. We're just waiting on kind of the final approval from Google Play and Apple because they are slow to do things.
Well,
yeah.
Make sure you do my favorite Android app, which is Pocket Cast. I absolutely love it, and you can just submit the RSS feed on their own.
Cool.
Yeah, we've
So-
got Madison is going to be going through and looking for those other podcast apps to see like where all we can submit our feed and get stuff going.
Yeah, if she needs any help, tell her to reach out to me. I'll gladly help her.
It's Malachi.
So good.
Sorry, I heard Madison went straight girl.
We'll tell him.
That's okay. I already ADD'd out and forgot what the podcast app you said was. It was your favorite?
Pocket Cast.
Pocket Cast. Okay, cool.
So you guys just went through a huge change. You went from the Ritual cast to now Mythguided. Can one of you explain that whole situation?
We'll let Grayson do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
sum it up.
So it's kind of frustrating, and it's one of those things that I have to choose words carefully in how we go about it. So we had just searched everything in terms of choosing our name. We went through a list of names, and we were like, this doesn't exist anywhere with the Ritual cast. We're really excited about it. We started November doing our promos for we will be releasing in February. We were all over Twitter. If you searched the Ritual cast on Twitter, there we were. Like every single tweet was about us. And then 2 weeks before we launched, it's either New Zealand or Australia, a gaming media company went, by the way, Ritual Cast is coming out right now, and launched. And they are a well-followed product. There's a lot of people who listen to the media that they were doing before, but they're a live stream, and then they happen to just throw a podcast recording out of it, but their main thing is live streaming. But they had a big enough following that when it came time to where we were relaunching and having to start from scratch, it was one of those things where, well, this could just be another fight we're not wanting to have to try and find our listenership and stuff like that. So we decided to just do a complete rebranding as we were relaunching our podcast.
Nice.
It's a great name.
Yeah, I definitely
like
like the new name.
Yeah, we're excited. The Mythguided was kind of inspired by the Robert Asprin series. He's got his like Myth Adventures, Myth Inc. And then we also have our campaign title Forgotten Lore in there, which we just we love having that stuff combined. So that part will probably change as we go into different kinds of stories. But yeah, we're real excited about it.
I guess actually I kind of have to leave Grayson out of this one because he plays way too many characters. So how did you guys come up with, oh, actually, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. How did you guys all come together to create this podcast? Grayson, you can be on this one.
Well, I'm kind of the storyteller on a lot of this one. So I had gotten into listening to TTRPG podcasts through a friend who ran the network we initially are part of, that we are now kind of off doing our own thing. And I was pestering her constantly, like, what's a new podcast I can listen to? What's a new podcast I can listen to? As I was getting caught up on all of them. As I'm sitting here doing this, I'm like, I feel like I could do this. And I live in North Dakota, so I'm bored. So, like, why don't I start doing that? So I reached out and kind of learned what the processes were for what to get started, and then started reaching out to the family members and the two close friends that I wanted to be a part of it. And everybody just kind of jumped on it right away. And so it was a little bit of probably hubris of me thinking, like, I listened to the Adventure Zone, I think I could make something like that. And also wanting to play more D&D with my family, who, like I said, I'm in North Dakota. Forrest and Tristan are in Washington. At the time, Mariah and Corey were in Texas. And so it was a way to connect with my family that gets into the D&D stuff that is spread out across the entire country, and kind of just built from there. That's my part of things, if the other three want to jump in for theirs.
Yeah, we were living in Austin, Texas, which is really, really far from the rest of our family that all live in the Northwest. And we were new there. And then with coronavirus and everything, we were very isolated and not getting out or meeting new people or anything. So, we took when Grayson was like, hey, you want to be in a D&D podcast? We were both like, yes, this sounds great, because it gives us a social outlet of some kind. And I had never really played D&D before. So it was something that I always wanted to get into. And my wife, Mariah, who plays Blitherial on the podcast, has played for years and years and has always pushed me into getting into it. So that's the main reason why I joined, is for social outlet and learning how to play D&D, I guess.
Yeah, that's like me and my wife. I love playing D&D. I can't wait to start our own D&D podcast, and I am pushing my wife to play with us. I'm like, babe, you're gonna have so much fun.
I'm proud of that.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, when Grayson was talking to me about this stuff, firstly, like, he was talking to me a lot before we even got to the point where he was doing podcasting about the campaign that he was designing, because he would like bounce ideas off me, and we'd do like brainstorming and stuff. So it was a fun thing there. And then he's like, yeah, and I'm asking these other people and other family members to do the podcast. And I was like,
yeah, we were like,
excuse me, like, what about us? So I pretty much made him let us be a part of it.
To be fair, that was a misunderstanding, because we talked about podcasting before, and you were like, I don't have the time for that, because you thought I would make you DM it, and I am too much of a control freak since becoming a DM to not be the DM anymore. I've been a player in a campaign once in the last 10 years. I have been running games otherwise ever since, because it's the only way I could play, and now it's just like, I don't know what to do if I can't look at monster stat blocks.
Yeah, I'm similar to your wife, James, that I have a husband who browbeat me into joining the gaming community about 10 years ago, and I don't regret it for a second. Yeah, the opportunity to get to do this as largely an excuse to have a reason to have a set time to hang out with family and some new friends and stuff was really too good to sort of pass up. And myself and Forrest and Corey, I think maybe some others in our group, have like acting education and experience. And so there's some of that we get to kind of flex those muscles that, in kind of normal day-to-day life you don't get to, which is a lot of fun, at least for me. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to send you my wife's phone number. Can you call her and tell her it's not a mistake?
That's fair.
So now we'll move on to the question I was originally going to ask. How did you guys come up with your characters and character voices and your character classes? Because I know you guys run some pretty unique character classes to character type.
Well, for me, I was looking for something that was a little different than what I usually play, where I usually play a bard or cleric type character, being the support kind of caster, and I wanted also to kind of go against type for and expectations with the race of my character and stuff. So I was playing with different ideas of the kind of unusual combos, and in the end with Adrian, it came to, I was like, nobody plays an elf paladin. That's they're usually more suited for playing a wizard type intelligence based kind of class, and I thought it would be really interesting to do. I didn't want to be shackled by optimization and stuff, so I tried to start with that, and then I went to thinking about the voice that would go with it, and I spent a bunch of time looking at Tolkien's.
He walked around this house for 2 weeks trying out different combinations of accents and sounds and stuff. It was hilarious. Our kids thought he was crazy. It was great.
Yeah, it was definitely. So, then Grayson had some really great kind of random mechanics that were involved in our character creation process as well that helped to guide some of that. So when we get there, he can talk about those things.
Can we take a 30-second break here that you can cut out in editing so I can send my kids to their friend's house so they're just gone? Is that okay? Okay,
Go for it.
Give me 30 seconds here. Children, I need you to put on shoes, helmets, and go to Quentin's as fast as you can.
Quick like a bunny.
We give you candy to go.
Quick like a bunny.
For those who play D&D, this is how you get rid of children. Step 1. Quick like a
Okay,
bunny.
we'll pause it and just leave it. And you shoes, helmets, and get out of here.
This is not a drill. Go, 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 go.
Should I just call them? I'll just call them. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
I might just leave this in for comedy relief.
Might as well. That's the joy. I see the joy of only seeing at specific visitation times with the family is so between all of the siblings, because I'm the youngest of 6, so and Forrest is the oldest of the 6. There are now 7 nephews and a niece, so there's a ton, and that's where family holidays and things like that are
insane, I think is the word
yes,
you're looking
insane
for.
Is a really good word, especially because my mom and my stepdad's house the living room is way too small to accommodate everyone for holidays, but they insist on doing it that way. And it's I'm a retail manager. I don't get Christmas off, so I will Skype into this and have plenty of space to sit.
I come from a family that's not very family oriented, I guess is the best way to put that. So gatherings are maybe 4 or 5 people, and then showing up to Christmas holiday at Mariah's parents' house is just overload for me. There's 40 people.
It's overload for us, and we grew up in this. We all have to after a holiday with our family, everyone needs a personal day because it's just
exhausted.
It's imagine
son.
Like I said, as a retail manager, I've worked now 6 Black Fridays in a row, coming up on my 7th. And I am so much more stressed out after Christmas than I am after Black Friday. It's just because there's so many people.
Just be glad this year for Black Friday, everybody has to stay 6 feet apart.
That's gonna.
You got store capacities to maintain.
We'll see.
We'll see. You'll have to walk out with a cattle prod. I said 6 feet. Zap.
I still get arguments when I tell people you have to wear a mask inside the store. I can't breathe in a mask. yes, you can.
Oh,
Okay.
And you
Oh,
can't
no.
breathe in our store.
Okay, they're gone.
Are we good?
We're good. Thank you.
yeah, you guys gotta come over sometime so I can introduce your kids to the goats.
They'd love that.
Yeah.
Sorry, we were talking about
Um,
characters.
Yes,
Yeah.
character class.
Corey?
Yeah, so let's see. How did I come up with Groth Vorlisar? He's a Dragonborn Ranger, which I guess is sort of an unusual character class thing. I flipping through the manuals, I just really liked the Dragonborn mythos and all of that stuff about them. So that's sort of why I chose Dragonborn. And then I'm really into outdoors recreation stuff, backpacking and camping way out in the wilderness and that sort of thing. So I thought that a ranger would be a good fit for me because both of those elements appealed to me. Originally, I thought that Groth would be more of the Strider type, but he didn't turn out that way at all because as soon as I opened my mouth and the voice came out, Groth is pretty much the opposite of a typical ranger.
He's very
as far
brash.
yeah, he's a little rough around the edges.
Oh, his name's Groth. What'd you think he
right.
would be?
Well, so as far as the creation of the voice, I think I probably took the opposite approach to Forrest and Blitherial, where very little thoughts went into what Groth's voice was going to be. I narrate audiobooks, so I'm coming up with character name or character voices all the time. And with Groth, I just thought, what is a Dragonborn Ranger going to sound like? And then this just came out of my mouth, and there was Groth. So that's just kind of how it happened. I guess I probably should have put more thought into it, but I think that Groth is very lovable in his own right, even with his roughness.
Definitely.
That brings up an interesting point of something that I adore about D&D and tabletop RPG in general is that there's no shoulda, honestly. Like, yeah, you can take 2 weeks and put thought into it that way, or you could just see what comes out, and you end up with different things and fun things, and you can kind of do it how you want. And if you're having fun and everybody else is having fun, then awesome. So especially as a first-time player, I feel like Corey has really just sunk right into being just one of the other people at the table, and it, much past the first couple episodes, you can't really tell even that he's brand new. So
Actually, listening to it because of his character voice and how far he dives into that character, I thought he was a freaking veteran player.
About as good a compliment as you can
good.
get, I think.
Yeah, that's good.
Nice.
Right?
But it was.
Boy, there goes my ego. Woo.
Well, and
No more of that.
He's not going to fit in his studio anymore.
As the DM, no one prepared me other than Forrest for what voices we were going to be dealing with. And so, in the first episode, the first person who starts interacting with anyone at all is Groth. And I think that helped kind of everybody else settle into their characters. I know they did the interviews for campaign 2 of Critical Role, for example, and everyone was talking about we're so nervous to be playing these new characters, and then Laura Bailey comes in as Jester doing the ridiculous over the top things, and so everyone was just well, she's doing this, so we're good. And that's kind of, I think, Corey's performance as Groth when it started was he was just we got the out there character voice right away from somebody, and so everyone else was able to settle in really well to what they were doing, because it's we're not doing that level of a voice, so we're less nervous.
It took a lot. It's still even with working on stuff beforehand, and I said, I carefully crafted the dialect for him, because to have the soft THs as much as possible. Some of the regular voiced TH sounds come out still sometimes, but the rolled R's and soft THs and whatnot, we're all I was going, how would a native Elven speaker sound in speaking common. And so I'm looking at like the notes on Tolkien's stuff and like what's the pronunciation of these things, and so then how would that sound with English, and so it's, and even with like all the prep work, it still took some time to settle into it in game.
Yeah.
So.
But again, still the fun of getting to do whatever you want, because it's not a European Spanish accent. It's not an anything, because none of these places exist. It's whatever you want it to be. It's not a bad Scottish accent. This is how halflings talk or whatever. Yeah. Like, it doesn't have to be anything, which is fun. It gives you a lot of room to play around, which I think is awesome.
It's not a bad like Spanish Spain accent. It's it's a really good Sockpolitan accent.
Yeah, exactly.
Which you then forced me to have to try and figure out to do.
Not my problem.
All Sockpolitan NPCs going forward.
Hey, I'm just glad he didn't do the typical British elf. And I was, because every other podcast that has an elf, they're always British. And I'm like, who just decided that all British people are elves?
You like this generic British accent, half elf.
Tristan feels very called out.
I do feel very called out right now.
I would say, to be fair, though, part of that is just the cultural norms. If you expect kind of that London British accent goes along with that kind of aloof, slow, emotional type personality, and that's very much what elves are described as. And so it almost pairs well with the cultural norms in D&D of what elves are. Whereas we're in a homebrew world, like, there very much are not a lot of cultural norms that are shared, because some of them have been created by me in the homebrew world, and some of them are being made up by these characters on the fly, where I have to change a culture notes from what I did before. So,
well, and honestly, I took it negative. I was just like, does everybody put elves on such a pedestal that they instantly go British? Because when you think of high society and like royals, you think British, and
especially in Western culture.
I think that Americans in general, like, I think if you're looking at Americans view fantasy in general as British. They want fantasy novels to be narrated with a British dialect of some kind, or different things like that, because it's foreign to them, and it's a different field than what they're used to. And the American dialect is what they're used to. Isn't
it feels common.
It feels common, so it feels fancy to be doing the British dialect for Americans. But I don't know.
Well, and then you add in fairy tales and stories and epics and all of those. Like, westernized American culture has not existed for long enough for us to really have anything like that to fall back on beyond like Westerns. Like, Westerns is our version of telling like Tolkien stories like that they do in England. Like, that's English type of history. We have Westerns in America, and that's kind of our old historical fictional type of stuff that you deal with. And how jarring would that be for a lot of people? And it is a lot of times when you hear all of a sudden, when you hear Clang come in with, out of nowhere, an antebellum style Southern accent, which I was not prepped for in any way.
Yeah, and people love it. When I talk to people who have listened to the show, that is one of the first things they say is, Clang is amazing and I love him, he's great. And that's a very good point.
So Clang is an automaton, which means he was programmed and developed, and I'm just sitting here going, what programmer was just like, accent. Let's make him a Southern belle.
Yeah. And that's the thing, I still have to figure out where some of that stuff came from, because I mean, when you get further in the episodes, like, he dealt with gnomes and dwarves when at his kind of creation and coming into intelligence, and like, the way I set up those societies are very much not Southern. Yeah. So he just kind of did his thing.
I'm just saying, now all I can think about is a freaking dwarf going, now listen here, Pilgrim.
I like
needs to be a thing.
I think that I think all dwarves going forward should be Southern.
The hammer of Moradin. What do you think you're doing?
Awesome.
By Moradin's fanciful braided beard.
Yeah, right.
Did you spit sign them shoes?
Well, in my own interest, in defense of my choice of very generic fantasy dialect, personally, I chose it just for ease of slipping into something that was not my own voice, but that was almost as comfortable as, so I didn't have to be thinking about it like he was doing, because that was way too much work for me. But I would also sort of posit, if you'll allow me as devil's advocate, that Zarya is a half elf and she's half drow elf, which are historically canon wise seen as sort of like just a step away from evil, really, like, you know, like an evil type race. And I realize that there's a lot more nuance to that now, but certainly a long way removed from the sort of fancy high elf. And so I kind of feel like bringing that more sort of fancy feel of a dialect into that, which is you see in some of the episodes that'll be released here in a week or so, who she was raised by for the majority of her life does not speak like that. And so it's a remnant of the little bit of time that she spent being raised by her drow heritage. And so I feel like it brings maybe a different dimension into that, of it's not quite so, you know, fancy and highbrow, but maybe even just the opposite.
Drow culture stuff is fun because we haven't explored any of that yet.
Oh, I know.
And obviously,
I know.
the homebrew drow stuff is going to be very different than Menzoberranzan, where all evil drow come from. Like, is very much not what's going to be going on. That's what you kind of got to appreciate sometimes about Forgotten Realms, is there are no gray areas in Forgotten Realms. It's just like everything is either evil or good. And even the people that are like neutral are either evil or good. Like, there's no in-betweens anywhere in those stories. And that's where finding that middle ground in kind of homebrew creation is fun, because it's like you have to put aside the past 40 years of D&D to try and figure out like what the new thing you're doing is and how it can fit without jarring.
Yeah, I had that with my home game where I decided that my drow, my dark elves are going to be like, they're completely different. Instead of being the like ebony skinned, they're kind of pallid and totally blind, and they navigate the Underdark by using clicks and echolocation kind of thing, kind of like the clickers in The Last of Us and stuff. So
like The Descent.
Yes, that
Yeah,
game I don't play because it's scary.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it, and they're not like, it's not like they're evil, but they're antagonistic towards the other elves because of that kind of feeling of being rejected and stuff. And so it's like spiteful.
And again, another case in point, apparently this is my like anthem today, is how you can take the base of what D&D's rules and lore and stuff are and be able to expand it into whatever you want. And to have that sort of framework for creating depth of story and world creation, I love it. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I can kind of relate on that in my little homebrew game that I'm playing with Seth, Chris Cornish, and Sawyer Fisher. I'm playing a very unique Dragonborn character, which his class is just fighter with a subclass of thief. But what makes him unique is he's actually a mutant, which means he doesn't look like a normal Dragonborn that you would see in the pages of your D&D book. He looks like a human, except he has horns and a tail, and he has wings, and his hands are claws, so he doesn't really have to use gloves. But I chose him that specifically because I wanted to like have that sort of disparity, because other Dragonborns look down on him, because the mutants, they don't get a breath attack, and they don't have the like same power that a normal Dragonborn would have. They'd actually be more built like a tiefling. And that so when I read that, I was like, oh, I'm totally gonna play this, but as a character trait, I'm gonna make him disguise himself as a tiefling by wearing his wings like a cape, like kind of like a cape. So everybody just thinks because he's got long hair, he hides that part of his back where his wings connect, and he just walks around and everybody's like, oh, this tiefling. So I love that D&D gives you that freedom to where you can take a character class and change it however you want. You don't have to just be stuck to by the rules.
So speaking of all the different characters you guys have, who are your favorite non-playable characters in the series?
I mean, my vote is for Rialto.
Well, everybody loves Rialto, of course.
Actually, Rial is a great character as well.
Why
which,
Rial?
Kick him in the nuts.
The kick him in the nuts, like
Kick him in the
Rial's,
crotch and run.
Kick him in the
Yeah.
crotch and run.
He's just fantastic. This like voice in a character's head that just says off the wall things all the time. I just really, really like that character. He's so much fun.
He reminds me of the little like angel and demon if the demon won the fight every time.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
No, because he's got a good heart. The problem is he's the angel that won, but the angel's cracked.
Oh, yeah,
And so, and because
Totally
it's a whole thing where it'll reveal where all those cracks came from over time, but it's like he talked about, like right in the first episode, like so long alone. He's basically, for however long things been going on, he's just been inside of Blethariel's head talking to himself. Like,
And obviously he started answering himself.
yep.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to learn more about that. Because we're introduced to him just as kind of this other side of Blethariel. But as we go on, and I'm not going to spoiler too all much, but in one of the episodes that has previously been released and is being re-released here in the next week, we do find some other sort of enigmatic figures that seem to be having influence on the party, of which he seems to be one, or is at least connected or associated with in some fashion. And so it kind of widens the scope of him, and we have no idea what any of that means, but it's more than just, Blethariel might have a split personality or something. Like, there's a lot more to this clearly fully developed character that we haven't seen yet, which is cool.
Yeah. And one of my buddies who has been listening, and he says he listens while he commutes. He's got a commute that he can like listen to an entire episode one way. And he says he just dies laughing when Real comes in and was like, you guys need to get like a t-shirt or something that's got Real sayings on there. Get a t-shirt with "Kick him in the crotch and run."
To be fair, I did steal that from Scrubs. I stole that one from Scrubs. That's another one of my favorite shows because I literally laugh about that line all the time because JD's in his own head and his voice in his head tells him like, "Kick him in the crotch and run," and then he ends up just being really polite in the conversation. So I stole that characteristic for Rial because any good DM is a great thief.
So I was going to ask you about that. I was like, Rial is like, because I'm a huge fan of Scrubs. I listen to the Scrubs Rewatch podcast. I haven't missed an episode. I've seen every single episode of Scrubs, even the unreleased episodes. And Rial reminded me of that freaking, that voice JD constantly has in his head, to where he had to make up the bunny rabbit in his gym suit or gym track to keep him going on a straight line.
Yeah. That's basically where part of the inspiration, and then when we were trying to come up with how he talks and acts and things like that, we talked through some options, and what Mariah chose for Blethariel to have Real's voice be and personality was a little bit of like a deranged Tigger. And so that's where the laugh, whenever he's laughing, it's like like that's a pure like just stole it from Winnie the Pooh to be kind of that craziness for Rial.
I never made that connection. That's so great.
So we got to steal stuff. That's how D&D works.
I don't know, dude. I think that's how like art creation works.
Yeah.
I don't call it stealing. I call it creative inspiration.
There you go.
Yep,
that sounds
exactly.
nicer.
We'll go with it.
Well, I feel like I've seen the thing of, good writers borrow and great writers steal. It's like a commonly accepted. But you don't steal things whole cloth. It goes through a filter, the filter of your own kind of ideas. And so even if you take this whole idea that somebody else has worked on and created, by the time you sift it and you squeeze it and press it for what you're going to do with it, it turns into something new. And that's, I think, again, just in any part of creative process, one of the exciting things.
Yeah, if you do it well, it's an homage, and if you do it poorly, then it's stealing.
I mean,
enough.
I creatively borrowed the name of the big bad guy for our D&D homebrew from a 12-issue comic book that never finished. So I get it.
So, and then obviously Rialto is the one that everybody, he became the narrator for the trailers and stuff like that. I don't know where Rialto came from. I used him in a home game about 6 years ago, because the podcast is about the third iteration of this campaign. The first time I ran it, it died after like 6 sessions because it was just, I was 26 years old or something like that, running a campaign for early 20s people that I worked with in Minot at Best Buy there, and they all went about their lives and the campaign fell apart, but that part really worked. Well, then I get into the second time I ran this home game is with my current home game, which is wrapping up essentially the same campaign of the podcast, which is totally different than what's going on in the podcast because everything changes with the players. And they never met Rialto. They didn't go anywhere near his shop. And I have this awesome NPC I've created that none of my players have interacted with at all. And it's just and so finally, I was like, no, I don't give, I caught myself on the swearing for the children there. I don't care that what happens. I don't care what happens. These players are interacting with Rialto. I've spent too much time making him. And so it was you see a powder blue building with with bubblegum pink trim, and they walk past it. And I'm like, as you're walking in a different area, you pass another bubblegum pink and blue building. And so I built that in because I was I worked too hard on this NPC for no one to hear him. And then they bought into it. So it's good. It paid off that I forced them to interact with him.
Well, I think that's brings up an interesting thing for me anyway, about the group that we have, both of player personality and player character personalities. For those of you who have listened to any of this, I love my Zarya. She's lovely, but she's also kind of a wet blanket. And so the novelty of Rialto and the bubblegum pink and all that stuff, she gives absolutely zero ducks about that at all. And so, if it had been up to her, we would have continued not interacting. But because of the other people in the group, we get, these other sort of things that come in. And I love that. I love that we have that, widespread of personalities that then brings in all those different interesting aspects that Grayson has created.
Yeah, it's great to have people that yes and everything, and then it also gives the permission for some like Zarya sometimes to be just annoyed with it and to be like, now
I'm feeling a little put on the spot.
Well, I just have one favor. Please don't let my favorite NPC go on the wayside, because last time you guys left off, spoiler alert, is Forrest has him in chains right now, which I don't understand how that works because he has only one.
Yeah. I think they talked through that. I think they wrapped the chain around Lefty's waist.
I think that's right. I might have missed that part because I listen at work. So, but I really enjoy Lefty, and I'm just sitting here like, man, this guy needs to become like your Pokemon or something. Like, give him a dagger and go, Lefty, fight.
I have plans for Lefty. Don't worry. You will learn the story. I believe the new episode that releases September 1st.
Yep.
Is going to give us the path of Lefty a little bit to start with.
Correct.
And then
I know because I'm editing it right now.
Yeah. And then from there you will see how things go. But Lefty, I like the thing in my head. Lefty came out of left field. Literally what was in my head there. I came up with Lefty on the spot. Everything about it, to the point where we had to retcon and change it for the new episodes, because all of a sudden I realized all of these character names are different from when I introduced one of the goblins as Dewfleck. And then Dewfleck no longer exists because you have Digger, Trigger, and Lefty. And I was like, oh boy. So I actually re-recorded an audio drop to fix that, so that continuity issue
Well, that's one of the challenges as a DM is you don't know what your players are going to do. You cannot, there's no way to possibly plan for all that stuff that we were going to not just, go in and just wipe them all out and that we were going to interact with them and whatever else.
Wipe them all out. Those goblins are invincible.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
I don't know.
It's definitely fun because it's part of that's probably DM style too. Because I was listening to what was it, Knights, and I just started listening to a new TTRPG podcast. It's Knights and something. But listening to the DM who before he starts they start their first episode, he does an episode just talking about his DM style, and he's like, all of this prep work that I do and scripting and all of this, and I'm like, I write down like 4 bullet points for an episode and sit down and we just like ad lib the shit out of it. Like,
that's the funnest way to do it.
yeah.
So if you guys, this is where we were talking about other podcasts and stuff. So if you guys really like actual play podcasts, I know of a few that I absolutely, I can't stop listening to them right now. And one of them is called The Crit Show. They play, I just had a brain fart. I'm like,
Monster of the Week.
Monster of the Week. That's it. They have a great cast. They have an amazing GM. Like, definitely check out The Crit Show. And then the new one I'm listening to is Missing Role Player Found. And we just had an interview with them. And man, those guys are just fun. And in their first arc, they have to battle a group of Nazi spiders. And it was so
With
funny.
accents.
Yes, spiders with German accents. That
I don't know how to process that.
I don't know either. It's also because the German accent's something I've been trying to pick up to use with NPCs. The German accent is very, very difficult for like American speech is what I'm finding, because your brain just flips back and forth between French and German because there's a lot of similarities there, but it's really hard to kind of stay on that.
I'm just saying,
True.
if you guys want to bust a gut laughing, definitely check out Missing Role Player Found. It's
Nice.
it's a unique podcast because they're playing Pathfinder in Sword Art Online. And I know the hate about Sword Art Online. I know. Just give it a try. It's absolutely hilarious. And when you get to Nazi spiders, you'll have fun. Or their mount spider that they eventually get named Pierre that has a French accent.
All right. To be fair, I don't think there's any SAO haters here. Like,
Oh, okay.
like it's an anime. Basically, people get
Sword Art
trapped
Online.
inside of a video game.
Yep.
It's
And
a
if they
virtual
die in the
reality
video-
video game, and if they die in the video game, they die in real life. It's basically like The Matrix meets EverQuest.
Right.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and
Yeah, that's
definitely
good.
watch it. It's on Netflix. Don't
There's
sleep
so
on it.
much, like, sometimes with the anime community, there's so many people, there's so many anime snobs, and it's like, why can't we just enjoy things? Like,
No, not in the anime community. Pfft. And enjoy something. There's too
how
many
dare
things.
you like Dragon Ball Z? You mean the thing that brought anime to the West?
Don't you dare throw that on Dragon Ball Z. It was Voltron, and you know it.
Voltron is before my time.
And us non-anime fans are sitting here going, sure, totally.
It's okay. Yu Yu Hakusho is the greatest anime of all time, so it doesn't even matter.
To be fair, anime is the reason that we started dating, Forrest
is.
and I, so I'll give it that.
Yeah, because Tristan I was working at a video store. I was working at Hastings, and Tristan came in to rent Inuyasha.
Yep. My friend got me started on Inuyasha, which I
And I
never
was-
finished.
And I was like, my sister loves that show.
I have no memory of you working at Hastings.
Yeah, because that was for about 45 seconds.
Yeah, it wasn't very long. It was yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Hold on real quick. For all of our younger listeners, a video store is a place that you went to rent things that you watched on your TV. Sorry, I'm just joshing.
But true.
it's all good. It's all good.
There are still some holdouts. Like I think Video Magic in Minot, North Dakota still exists right on the main road. And it's like the people who still go there are just loyal as hell. Like Video Magic is their spot.
Blockbuster still has Alaska on lockdown because they don't have very good internet.
Oh,
Well, there you go.
They They turned one of the last Blockbusters into an Airbnb so you could
Yes.
sleep in an
Saw
old
that.
video store.
Uh,
Just saying.
That sounds like
the smell
a
of
horror movie.
popcorn and feet.
It could be.
You remember the candies on the bottom of like those big candy bins? How they were always stuck to the bottom of it. You peel it and it'd be like,
Ugh. Thankfully, no, I don't remember that.
No, because
Ugh.
our video store was Hastings, and it's because Hastings wasn't just a video store; it was also a bookstore. It had all the
Comics.
video game
Novelty
stuff.
shop.
It had novel. Yeah, Hastings was awesome. When Hastings went away, is the only time I've ever been like sad about a retailer closing, because like that was where we shopped for. Like that was where I remember going into Hastings to finally get the Grand Crusade, which was the last book of the Dragon Crown War Cycle by Michael A. Stackpole, because I've been waiting for it forever, and we had to go into Hastings and get it. Like, I miss Hastings, because then they added the coffee shop to it, and there was just a ton of awesome stuff. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
streaming,
Nah.
And
Back
now
when
it's
you could
gone.
order everything off Amazon.
there was a coffee shop there. So you're telling me at one point in his life, Forrest was a barista?
No, there was no coffee shop when I worked there. No, but it was at that point it was just like videos, games, and bookstore
Yeah.
kind of stuff all combined. But
Okay,
anyway, let's get back on.
Yeah, back on track here.
Back on track. What's your guys' favorite memories from doing this podcast? First thing that pops out.
Ooh, stumpy.
there's
Just
I have
silence.
two.
I have no favorite memories.
I have two that pop up. The
I feel like
first
you're gonna
one.
kick someone
The
in
first
top.
one is I broke Forrest in episode 13 because Blithariel was having a conversation with Rialto about ducks.
Oh yeah.
And I just, that was such a fun one because I was able to, I try, like, Rialto has such a, like, even though he's silly, has such a composed energy to his silliness that being able to break his composure a little bit in that was really fun. And just me trying to hold it together while listening to Forrest be just dying and crying from laughter on the other side was pretty great.
It was pretty great.
Yeah.
I was dying and crying from laughter at work. So
And then I think the other one is when Groff lies about the assault on Torin Willem, which, by the way, is now a side quest you probably will never get to complete.
Well, Groff can't.
Yeah. And Forrest in the background just goes, oh, shh. Oh. See, I edited it for you. You don't even need to put the beep. See how good I am? I'm on my game today. And hearing that in the background, and my first thought was like, okay, this is going to be really fun. And my second thought was, Mom listens to this.
oh,
Especially
at
since I don't think I had sworn at all
Yeah, you
in
really
the
haven't.
podcast until that point.
Yeah.
So thinking about it, I think that my favorite thing that I've done in the campaign is my heist. Which
Your heist?
heist.
a heist, which is was very fun to pull off, or not pull off if you haven't watched, listened. You're not watching with your ears. I also really liked the other memory that popped into my head was early on. I didn't really know what to expect, and I'm picturing this like epic battle with my Dragonborn Ranger, and I get ready to shoot something, and I shoot Malachi instead.
Oh yeah, it was like our second battle, and it was just nat ones all over the place. It was just a comedy of errors in there, and like
I think that really set the tone for the Groth Malachi relationship.
yeah, I mean, I just like going back through it and stuff as we remastered these and whatnot. It's just been
Yeah, it's been fun.
oh man.
I think for me, I mean, there's the reason there was like radio silence for a sec is because not because there weren't memorable moments, but there are a lot. We've had, I mean, I think the biggest thing when you listen that you will see is that we have a lot of fun. And I think that for me, one of the big memorable ones that Zarya was not really involved in is the flower fight that we just
The flower
re-edited.
fight was a
Because the flower fight was a lot of fun. And I
Flower
think
fight
also
were there guns hidden in these flowers or something? Or
no, it was a duel like
Giant
with
flower.
like this oh gosh, it would
Don't-
how
don't
tall
spoil
was
it
the
if you
flower, Grayson?
It was a human height flower. It was a
very
fully
large
sized
flower.
because inside of there's a place called the College of Mystics, and think of it as it's basically a pocket dimension place where you have to have a magic school somewhere, and when you ask for directions, the flora responds, and so the flowers pop out of the ground, yellow flowers, to lead you towards where you're trying to go.
what?
Yep. And so the monk decided to try and pick the flowers, but the flowers don't like to be picked, which then led to an attempt to cut a flower by Adrian, who then stabbed one of the flowers. And so the flowers, the flora is sentient, and so it pops a giant flower out of the ground who's like the actual, like had a Spanish style, like, what's the word I'm thinking of?
You were going like Don
Sombrero?
Quixote hat.
Don Quixote hat is the flower, and this flower pops up out of the ground and pulls a thorny rapier out to duel Adrian.
Okay,
Well-
now I remember this, and I'm sitting here like, wait, flower fight. Okay.
and the thing that I found particularly funny about that, or fun about that, or whatever, is that even Forrest saying it is he sees it as a duel between the two of them, and who really.
Well,
who
yeah,
really did,
Blitherial
like-
did all the work.
I think Mariah will even say, like, to this day, get slightly defensive about the fact that, like, I did most of the work and I was in on this fight too, but it's largely seen as like this like epic standoff between Adrian and a flower.
The
And
flower was just ignoring her.
yeah,
Because Adrian was the one that stabbed the flower. So like,
yeah, it really kind of set up some more like character relations that I thought was really funny. The second thing for me that I continue to, I'm waiting for this to come back around on my character. Zarya and Groth had a little bit of a back and forth on how to wake a companion from sleep.
What?
That has it turned into a little bit of a back and forth, and I'm waiting for that sort of bit of a prank to come back around.
It's not over.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not, and it's fabulous, and I love it.
So one of my favorite character traits is Groth. He's supposed to be on like watching the banks and stuff on you guys' little boat trip, and he's like, I'm gonna take a nap. If we get attacked, wake me up. I thought that was gonna be like a character trait going forward. Like he's like, do we got a cart? Because while you guys are walking, I just want to take a nap. I was like, for a ranger, he sleeps a lot.
Yeah. There's stuff that goes in it. Like, I think one of the most exciting parts as the only one who knows what's going on is because in normal games, people at least know their characters. Like, they don't even know their characters fully. They know bits and pieces and the things they've suggested and talked about. And I can't wait to audibly hear people's minds blow when we get to some of like the big reveals. But all of this, like the Groth stuff, is really fun for me, kind of sitting here giggling to myself, like rubbing my fingers together just because of all of that type of thing.
I've got some pretty well-developed theories on that.
I'm working my hardest not to develop theories, because when I start developing theories and like I get hooked on my own headcanon, I'm like, why didn't it go this way? I send out mean tweets. I'm like, no, it should have went that way.
Yeah, it's definitely fun it's even more fun when they go, what's that about? Or to have listeners go, like, ask questions after like the Dreams and Memories episode where we revealed some of the backstories. And I got friends sending me messages going like, what did you just do? Like, it's always lots of fun. That was probably one of my favorite things, just because we got that really one-on-one character development time was in those episodes. Just to kind of play with those things and emotionally attack my players. Because if you're not willing to let players experience their character's trauma, then what's the point?
GM, I like to traumatize my players.
Yeah, pretty much.
They don't let me other times. Like I can spend forever. Like there's episodes coming up where I worked really hard to like set a dark, grim, like this is going to be a gritty dungeon crawl moment, and there's scary creatures around, and they laughed their way through the damn dungeon, and I'm sitting here like, why do I try? Like,
Yeah, you need to switch over to Monster of the Week for like one homebrew game, because that's all about. That's like playing the Dark Souls of freaking D&D.
Yeah, we definitely we'll be doing one shots and things like that coming up as we go. Because Monster of the Week, like the Adventure Zone, did a whole campaign of Monster of the Week that was really good. And that's what kind of got me interested in that Powered by the Apocalypse system, because you can literally make whatever you want out of Powered by the Apocalypse, and it's so simple to do. So yeah, there's definitely going to be stuff like that we do going forward for sure. And hopefully other people other than me will DM some of those so I can annoy them with my antics.
Yeah, we talked about doing like a one shot of the goblins and their stuff, and we're exploring ideas.
We have ideas.
So off the top of my head, if you guys were to ever like branch out away from like fantasy and using the powered by the apocalypse genre, what genre would you break into? Would you break into something like Pokemon, Power Rangers, something like that?
Well, Forrest has a campaign he runs we're probably going to do as a couple episode thing coming up at some point.
Yes, please.
Because it's awesome, which is a GURPS system. Forrest, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I did it with GURPS, but I think I'm going to switch the system to Amazing Tales, which is GURPS is great. I love GURPS. It's like the second best system for every genre. It's like if you're going for a genre specific, there's usually a game that's better suited for like getting into it. But if you're trying to stick with like a single rule set, GURPS is great.
I think that the Fate system would work well for this game that you're talking about.
Yeah, it probably would. But Amazing Tales is fun because it's like,
listen up, parents.
Yeah, it's a game system that's designed for playing with kids. And so it starts out with a really simple, like you make a character, you say like, what kind of thing are you?
And it's literally like, I'm going to be a pirate dinosaur or whatever. Like we've played this with our 5-year-old and our 8-year-old, and they do great.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
Our son had when we started playing, he was 3, and he made a character whose name is Barry Pomful, because he wanted his name. He was trying to say very powerful.
Yep, he wanted his character to be very powerful. So
it was Barry Pomful. So Captain Barry Pomful of the pirate ship Jumanji, because everything was Jumanji for him at that point. And then so anyway, and our daughter was a fairy.
Yeah, she was a bunch of different things.
And it's just so much fun.
So his point with this is the Amazing Tales system is very simple because you just choose what you want to be, and you have 4 skills.
And you rank them.
And you rank them a D6, D8, D12. No.
It's
D4, D6.
No, it's D6, D8, D10, D12.
D10, D12. And that's what you roll. And you have to roll above a 3.
Yeah, for like the basic kids kind of thing.
And so it's literally like, doing athletic things, doing magic, doing whatever. So it's very, very basic. And you have the parent there as the DM that's sort of guiding the story and whatnot. And so anyway, he's thinking of switching it over to this because
it just fits the concept of the game, which is plush toys that are fighting against nightmares, and the like the boogeyman and stuff to protect their little girl.
Hold on. So
that sounds cool.
Is this Toy Stories meets Legend of the Guardians?
Kind of. Yeah. So he based it off of the really cool picture of you see a picture of a teddy bear holding like a wooden sword up to the monster, and it's like teddy bears defending children from nightmares since 1919 or something like that.
Yeah, the deviant art. I can't remember who did it.
I I seen it. I literally just seen that picture, that meme this morning.
Yeah, and so I saw that and I was like, a secret order of teddy bear knights. And so,
and it's developed more than that. So the PC characters, there's a couple teddy bears. There's the invisible friend. There's
a ninja bunny.
Yeah.
And like there. Oh, and the
narwhal.
magical flying narwhal.
But is there a samurai pizza cat?
No,
there is not. My contribution to that campaign was Lieutenant Colonel Poot. Who is a really old, like, velvet teddy bear that was like the mom's teddy bear. And so he's like a grizzled veteran of this order, and he uses a microphone like a flail.
Yep, and he's based on my legitimate 30-year-old teddy bear.
Yeah, and squished flat.
And so like when we played the one shot Forrest did, like, we're calling all of these silly characters to order, and Lieutenant Colonel Poot's all business as he's walking through doing all of this stuff. But on top of that, I decided just like, we're not doing a grizzled veteran voice. And so I was like, soldiers, line up! And like giving out all of these commands and stuff like this, to the point where I garroted the boogeyman later on in the adventure, like critical success roll garroting the boogeyman with the microphone cord. And right before I rolled the dice, I was like, time to go to sleep, and like nailed it. Oh, it was probably my favorite moment in gaming, honestly, was doing that at the con.
So that's a possible one shot, and we're looking at some other ideas as well. For
Yeah.
sure.
All I can hear, all I want to hear is you use that voice just to say, soldiers, kick him in the crotch and run.
Soldiers, kick him in the crotch and run.
Oh man. So yeah,
I haven't done much with my high voice range in the game yet.
It's been a lot of fun. Like that whole, like, I've done 2 or 3 different scenarios in a sequence with that as con games with multiple groups, and like the stuff they came, like in one they asked if there was like a power wheel, and so they took like a Barbie pink Power Wheel Jeep into the nightmare world.
Just the one that I played.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a blast.
All right, Corey, what's your plushie, and what is this said plushie sound like?
I think I actually played. It's been a while. A lot of stuff has happened, but I think I actually played the same character that Grace in. I think I played Lieutenant Colonel Poot in the one that I played, right?
I think so, yeah.
But I did the rendition of like grizzled veteran sort of teddy bear. I don't really remember though. I think he sort of sounded like this.
Yeah, it was kind of like the smokes 3 packs a day kind of.
Oh, so General Patton.
Yeah.
I actually started writing a backstory for Lieutenant Colonel Poot, but I'm a terrible writer. That's what makes me do DMing and stuff like that, is because I can tell a story with my voice. I cannot appropriately tell a story grammatically on paper, and I know this because I've done 2 short stories that I sent to Tristan, and they came back with like, you used passive voice, you used passive voice, you used passive voice, like every 3 sentences, and I was like, I'm just gonna talk. Talking is how I do things now.
No. That was supposed to be like encouraging
I know.
teaching, not
I know,
critical
but it was
here.
just like but at the point is every time I get told passive voice, I have to Google what it means. So
you had been doing passive voice.
yeah. And so we did but Lieutenant Colonel Poot's backstory was like dark. He had a very dark and gritty backstory of like getting picked out at the toy store. But he was like the child was a daughter of like a Vietnam War officer, and so he got shipped off and the dad didn't come back from war, and the first night he had to realize how he had to defend from nightmares was the day that the girl found out her dad wasn't coming home, and then the closet door opened that night. So it was like I was really excited about it, and then I was like, oh wait, I'm really shitty at writing.
That
really
looks
dark
kinda
in here.
dark. I was like,
So this, this campaign, I mean, it's a children's story, but it is very, very dark, and I think that that appeals to me anyway in doing it. So
Yeah, it's
Just
that
like-
juxtaposition of these bright characters with a dark world.
like the nightmare world is scary.
oof, that's just like Nightmare on Elm Street, meant for kids, but it's super dark.
Nightmare on Elm Street's meant for kids.
Yeah,
What?
you know.
Okay,
But James,
when
what
that
did you
movie
watch
came
when you
out,
grew
I
up?
was
We
a
had
kid, and my
very
dad
different
took me-
childhoods.
Mr.
Yeah,
Rogers'
I guess-
Neighborhood.
I guess that's yeah. I was raised by a single dad, so like the only thing my dad was super passionate about me not watching outside of a theater was Star Wars, and like I had to sit there and look at him, and I was like, Dad, let's watch this because the covers look awesome, and he was like, nope. And then how I got to see Star Wars for the first time was they did a triple playing at the local theater, and my dad took me and my brother to go see it on the big screen for the first time. Like I had my mind blown away when I found out that Darth Vader was Luke's dad. Like I got to see it all on the big screen.
Geez,
for the very
spoilers.
first time.
Empire Strikes Back was my first movie in theaters because the special editions had come out and they released them in the Wilma in Missoula, and so we went and saw that in the theater, and that's the first movie I remember seeing in theaters.
See, I'm lucky I didn't get to watch the special editions in theaters. I got to watch the original theatrical releases because they were doing a multiplex night at the local theater that they played old movies for $2. So you go watch an old movie that you already own on VHS for $2 on the big screen, like you never got to see it. And I got to see Terminator for the first time that way. I got to see Terminator 2 for the first time that way. I got to see Aliens for the first time that way. Like that was me and my dad's thing growing up, was we would go to the $2 theater and watch old movies. And when they did Star Wars, like my dad called out of work that day. He was like, we're going to see this.
What's something you would want your listeners to ask or learn from Mythguided? Maybe it's a moral, how to play the game. Maybe it's something that you learned.
So, as someone that is new to D&D, I had, before this campaign, I had only played one shot, which Forrest DM, and I was prone during the entire one shot. I just
Oh man,
Right.
you had such a hard time
Like,
with that one.
it wasn't a good experience for my
I'm so
first time
sorry.
playing D&D, just because I couldn't do anything in the game. But going into this, something that I think that would be good for people to take away is that it's not difficult. Dungeons and Dragons is something that if you just commit to your character and go along with it, all of the rules of the game just kind of fall into place, especially if you have an experienced DM or other players that know what they're doing. You can really jump into playing Dungeons and Dragons and have no clue what you're doing at all and still have a really enjoyable experience. And I think that that's something that I would like listeners to learn, is that you don't have to be this uber experienced role player in order to enjoy it and get something out of playing because of because of how it functions. And you can do whatever you want, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, jumping off of that, being the other person here that learned this game as an adult instead of growing up playing it. One of my first experiences in a role-playing game was a one-shot at a con. We were playing Shadowrun, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the DM, their experienced DM, great guy, friend of ours, that I was trying to figure out, okay, well, I want to do a thing. What can I do? What can I? And he just said, don't worry about that. Don't worry about any of that. What do you want to do? Just tell me what you want to do, and you can do it, and we'll figure out how to do it. Like, don't worry about any of the numbers and stuff. Just what do you want to do? And so that, for me, really jumping in with what Corey was saying about it's not hard. He's absolutely right. Just think about what do you want to do? And the DM, unless you end up with somebody who really doesn't know what they're doing or is not very good at it, the DM will just roll with it.
And it's especially easy now that things like D&D Beyond exists. God,
Well, yeah,
making characters in 3.5 where you'd spend 2.5 hours just rolling up a freaking character, or God forbid, second edition, then you got to figure out friggin' Thaco. I still don't understand it.
I
Like,
still don't understand that.
the only people who I don't even think the people who are like Thaco hardcore, we must do Thaco, understand Thaco.
I mean, I could explain it to you, but I don't
Please
feel like that's a
don't.
valuable use of our time right
Please
now.
But
do
It's not.
It's not, but it's I mean, especially because literally you can roll up the exact character you want to play on your phone in 5 minutes now, which is nuts. Like, the way technology has advanced with TTRPGs is so awesome. Like,
See,
as a DM, I don't have to like count out dice anymore. I can roll dice on a computer if I have to. I don't do that because you can hear me roll dice all the time in game until the higher levels when I have to start rolling 12d6 damage and things like that.
No, you really don't actually need to do that ever. It'd be okay. It'd be fine.
I would actually really appreciate it if for once you'd give us a challenge. It's a kidding. I'm joking.
And now we're all dead. Great.
I'll put together a challenge that I think will be really tough for them, and they'll just like in the first round kill a monster. Like, they went up against a group of ghouls and a ghast at one point, and they killed the ghast in 1 round.
I'd like to point out and say that I killed the ghast in 1 round.
Yeah, I was not the happiest about that. I didn't figure out I figured out my home game. I was like, why do they keep destroying everything so easily in the home game? And then I was like, let's start doing area of effect spells and see what happens. We're going to ratchet up the area of effect like things. And then all of a sudden they almost died. And I was like, a lot more area effects going to happen now.
Good to know. Good to know.
We were just fighting a mist in or a shadow. I can't remember what it was. A mist creature.
It's like a fog mist creature.
Yeah, we were just fighting a moss fog mist creature, and Chris's character, who uses a flamethrower and a shotgun, was like, I just rolled like 2 nat 20s for critical hits, and like every roll he was like nat 20, nat 20, nat 20. I was like, this isn't getting fun. But he ended up dealing all but like 1 damage to the creature, and then the creature ran away from him, and I had like flanked him with sneak, and he ran straight toward me, and then I was like, I'm gonna roll, yay, finally damage, and I was like, nat 20. Well, I want to be able to catch everything you drop, so I want to throw my gut bag under it. What do I got to roll for that? And they're like, you rolled a nat 20. You get to slash it in half and throw the gut bag under it to catch everything.
I threw a test tube and I held it.
So I was like, okay, that was very surprisingly quick. So I mean, Chris's character blew up half the floor we were on, but okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting to watch, and I've seen do this with, we've done this with Grace, and I can't talk today, and I've done this with Forest Runs games that I'm in all the time, and where they're just like, they have this great plan and then they just roll like poop, or whatever things, just a few things happen in a certain way so that their monsters just get decimated. And like, I know that DMs in general aren't like rooting for you to fail, but they at least want it to be like a good challenge, and
I at least want to cause you pain.
Yeah, it can be a very frustrating thing for sure.
Yeah.
So we're running out of time. We got to wrap it up here pretty quick. Thank you for joining us today so much. I know we both really appreciate it. But before we go, is there anyone you want to thank for your podcast, people that support you, or anyone you want?
So there are 4 of the 7 of us here today. And so certainly our other 3 peoples, Mariah and Madison and Brandon, who couldn't be here because our team is pretty awesome. And I am thankful for them that we get to do this fun stuff, and the less fun stuff is less not fun because we have their support all the way around.
And I want to thank the listeners of the podcast for sure, and everyone who follows us on Twitter. Yes. And if you don't, you should listen and follow.
And like and retweet and, all of those fun
Oh,
things.
that jazz.
Review,
Yeah, I think there's some big thanks we can throw out to like the Owlington is a big thanks right now.
Yeah, stay tuned, like and follow and subscribe and whatever for that stuff coming soon because it's going to be cool. You guys have no idea. Sorry,
and then we have there's a community on Twitter that really enjoys engaging with us, and we enjoy engaging with them. We're looking forward to eventually getting a Discord for all of our fans to chat with us and do all of that fun stuff too. I mean, and then for the nerds of the Leader family, which makes up, the majority of our family and a good chunk of the podcast. I mean, I think it's an easy way to say thanks to our dad, Chris, who started us on D&D and then proceeded to, once we learned it, TPK us until some of us would decide to DM so that he could play and not DM anymore.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Thanks to Dad for constantly killing me. And
my earliest D&D memory is a skeleton in a level 1 campaign getting a triple crit against Forrest's character and cutting his face in half. That's like my first D&D memory when I was like 6 years old, is Forrest's character getting slaughtered within the first like hour of a game. And then shortly thereafter, Forrest began DMing our games.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great memory to hold on to.
I could just see Forrest going, I spent so long building this character and you killed him. Junior, I am back for revenge against
That's awesome.
Oh man. No, I would say, a big thanks to, I think all of our family and friends also around that help to enable us to be able to do. So, we've got friends who take the kids for us when we're doing, like our next door neighbors take both of our kids for us, and like we don't ever have to pay them or anything. They help us to be able to, put out better quality sound and stuff, because we don't have to worry about, where our kids are and, all that kind of stuff. But
and our eternally patient children.
And our children.
Yeah, they are very, very patient with all the work that we have to do for this stuff. So
yeah.
Cool.
I cannot share that sentiment. Whenever I come in to edit, my son's right there going, Daddy, I want to edit too. Daddy, I want to edit too. So he gets to hear everything because he wears Seth's headphones and sits here while I go over and over and over. And he listens to the same line probably 20 times before I get it right.
I do that if I could. We are a probably largely 18 and up rated as far as at least language
We've
goes.
got a lot
so
of language.
not
We're
great
working
for
on
my
that,
5-year-old, but
we are
yes, we
trying
are
to get
working on
better.
that. You're right. That's fair.
Just before you start recording, just remember to say earmuffs, everyone, or put on the kid gloves.
Oh man.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up. So thank you for joining us on Creators Anonymous. We are asking you for your help. If you know someone that deserves to have their story told, or have any questions about supporting this creator or any others we have interviewed,
Let us know on Twitter at CreatorZAnon with a Z. That's CreatorZAnon, or email us at CreatorZAnon@gmail.com, spelled the same way. And you can chat with me live in the Cast Junkie Discord. And until next time, stay creative.